Hello, everybody, and welcome to Taking Control, the ADHD podcast on True Story FM. I'm Pete Wright, and I'm here with Nikki Kinzer.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Pete Wright.
Hi, Nikki.
How are you?
I'm so good. Can I tell you about the great joy that I have today?
Yes, please.
I didn't even realize how great this was, but for Christmas, as a little family gift, one of the things that we added to our kitchens, not an appliance, but it's a kitchen tool. It is one of those, the silver aluminum compressed, like nitrogen compressed infuser things that they use for whipped cream, like in Starbucks.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
You
we
have
got
that?
one of those. We got one of those.
Fine.
And my kids love it so much. They love it so much that now around my house, we always have whipped cream. And it's
and it's
a
on
blessing
everything.
And such a curse. I realize I'm having whipped cream regularly on my coffee because it's so great. It is a great cream delivery vehicle, and it makes me so happy. It is one of the little tweaks in my life this year that has made my life better. Is whipped cream on everything.
That's awesome.
That is one of my joys this fine Monday afternoon. We are going to talk about the way I characterize this in the little pre-write-up was a meditation today. That it's a meditation. No, we're not going to be meditating, but it's kind of a...
Medicating maybe, but...
we're going to be medicating. It is a thought experiment, a thought exercise around ADHD. I'm excited to talk about this and see kind of what you have in mind. Before we do that, head over to TakeControlADHD.com. You can get to know us a little bit better. You can listen to the show right there on the website or subscribe to the mailing list, and we will send you an email each time a new episode is released. You can connect with us on Twitter or Facebook at TakeControlADHD, and if this show has ever touched you, please check out patreon.com/the ADHD podcast. For a few bucks a month, you can support the show, get access to our online community of fantastic people who support us over on Discord. And you can also, if you could be here watching the live stream with me and Nikki right now. And had you been in here, you would have heard a long discussion about Spark Email, Todoist, the value of Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks movies over time. It just on and on. I mean, there's just real gold in them dar hills at the live stream. So check it out, patreon.com/the ADHD podcast. We've got some new tiers coming up. We are on the cusp of releasing some new goodies that I am very, very excited about. What kind of announcements do you have today, Nikki Kinzer?
Okay, I have 3 announcements. One is study hall.
Do we need to include like account, what's his name? The counts from the electric company?
Right. Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Yes.
Sesame Street.
Yes.
One ADHD announcement.
That's right. Study hall. So Thursday afternoons, 1 to 5 Pacific, 4 to 8 Eastern. Come join us. Get some stuff done. It's fun. Everybody's on video. If you don't want to be on video, that's okay. You can tell us what you're working on in the chat. It's just a good time. It's a good time to get things done, and it's like magic. So come visit us at Study Hall. I do want to put in the perk that if you are a Supreme member of Patreon, the study halls are free. So something to think about.
Two ADHD announcements.
GPS guided planning sessions. My 6-week workshop is going to be starting on March 1st.
I can't believe that time is flying.
I know. We're just starting to wrap up the first one that I started in January, and it's going very, very well. So if you want some additional support around planning your week, we meet 2 days a week. We meet on Mondays and Thursdays, and we take time out to plan for your week. We take time out to review your week on Thursdays, and then also to plan for the weekend ahead. So it's a great opportunity to work with me and help. I guide, I answer questions, but you also get the help from the people that are in the group. The chat is an amazing place. Like, we save the chats, and then I like give them to the group members in a PDF form, because there's just little nuggets of gold in these chat rooms. So please check that out.
3 ADHD announcements.
Thank you. It's wonderful. We're going to do this every single time. I love it. Guess what's coming up in March?
I couldn't possibly. Wait, what is it?
With Linda Rogley, ADHD.
Is it the ADHD Women's Palooza?
Yes. And I have the honor of speaking, and I'm speaking about planning. Isn't that funny? Because I'm
Excellent.
doing this GPS thing. But I'm speaking about planning, and anybody that's done or participated in the Palooza in the past know that there's going to be lots of different topics, lots of different experts, and it's going to be online. And this year it is from March 8th through the 13th. And you will see this in our newsletter where you can sign up and check it out. And that's it. That's what I've got.
I love it.
No more.
No more.
No more.
The end of the ADHD announcement.
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about fixing ADHD.
Okay, somebody listening to this right now, I 100% believe they need to hear this, and they need to hear it from both of us.
Okay.
I'm going to go first.
Go first.
You are not broken. You do not need to be fixed. And ADHD is not your fault.
You are not broken. You do not need to be fixed. ADHD is not your fault.
We're done with the podcast.
Good night, everybody. Just make sure to tip your servers.
That's right.
right.
Words of wisdom. No, I just really believe there's probably somebody that's going to respond to that. Maybe most people, right? Because it's so easy to feel that way.
I know we have more to talk about, but
Yes.
I inserted a comment in here, and I think it's really important. It was important when I first read that we were going to be talking about this some weeks ago, that we at least talk about why you might come to believe that there is a worldview that ADHD can be fixed, right? Because it's very easy when you live in a world in which some people believe ADHD can be fixed,
right?
That you can start believing that it's your fault for not having fixed it yet.
Mm-hmm.
And that is also not a thing.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
So I'm so curious how your perspective is on this. And I have some thoughts, but do you have any reaction to that experience of people who believe that it is possible and somehow that there is blame to go around for not having jumped on board yet, or how in this context not experiencing symptoms for a while is not the same as fixing ADHD?
Well, there's two components here that you're talking about. One is the thought process that somebody that doesn't believe in ADHD has, right? If they don't believe in it or they think it can be fixed, we don't have control over what those people think or how, it's going to be probably difficult to change their mind if that's how they really feel. However, I do think that platforms like ours, podcasts, webinars, books, experts who are, getting interviewed, the more we talk about ADHD and educate people with ADHD, educate our teachers, is a big part of it too. Like we can start catching ADHD maybe earlier, with children. All of that helps. It all helps, right? Because it takes away some of the stigma and education. Somebody just may not really understand it. Not that they don't believe it. They just don't understand it. So if we can be a voice to that, I think is great. But I think you still have to, just like as a parent, you pick your battles. Don't get into a big fight with someone who doesn't believe that ADHD exists. It's not worth your time. And I would move on from it.
I want to take it from just a slightly different angle, right? Because my mother calls me this weekend, on the weekend, and I said, "How you doing?" She says, "Well, not great." I said, "Well, what's going on?" She says, "Well, I passed out last weekend."
Oh.
I said, "What are you doing? Why'd you pass out?" She said, "I don't know. I was in the bathroom and I was washing my hands and I passed out, fell down on the floor. And then I came to and I got up real fast and I passed out again." Fell down on the floor.
Oh, geez.
I said, "Did you learn anything from the first time that you passed out seconds before?" She said, "Yeah, not to get up that fast. So everything's fine." She goes to the doctor and the doctor says, "Your adrenals have crashed. Have you been taking your adrenaline, your adrenal support medication?" She's on these adrenal support pills. She says, "No." Doctor says, why not? She says, because I was feeling good.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
You see where I'm going with this?
Oh, totally.
Right?
Yeah.
So anything that helps you mitigate your experience with ADHD will at some point or another make you feel pretty good. And you'll feel like you're kind of on top of things. And you might start to trick yourself and think, oh, I think maybe I fixed my ADHD. Right? And that is the setup for crushing devastation when you realize
very quickly that that's not the case. Yeah. Yeah.
I've been using of late, maybe over the last year, this house of cards sort of metaphor for my own experience with it. And that's the house of cards I'm talking about. Everything is very, it's always exists at a state of tenuousness that it's taken me many, 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 many repetitions to realize that this is who I am. This is my identity. It is not fixed. It's something that I adapt around. And so that's something I want to just make sure is table stakes for this conversation, that it's okay to believe at some point that you're in control. It does not necessarily mean, and our experience says it does not mean, that you are somehow cured by your ADHD.
Well, right.
You're doing great.
You're doing great.
But,
you're managing it. You're navigating it. You're navigating through it. You're probably getting good sleep. You're probably eating well. You're probably exercising. You're probably doing all of the medication. You're probably doing everything. It's all, it's all aligned with the stars, right? You're probably in a good job, good relationship. Absolutely. You can have all of these things and still have ADHD. And my guess is that, 1 or 2 days or some situation, you're going to feel the ADHD come back at some point.
Yep.
Maybe not as loud, but you'll see it and you'll be like, yeah, it's still there. But that's okay. I mean, that's okay. And I think that our goal
or
is
maybe
to
really loud.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe things fall apart.
Right.
But you every day you're proving that you can build back.
Yeah. I think that like with coaching, when I explain coaching to new clients, I talk about 3 kind of areas that I coach around. And the first one is the awareness around how your ADHD affects you, because ADHD affects everybody differently. So we have a lot of things still in common, but there's a lot of things that are different. So I'm listening in our conversations. I'm listening to what you're challenged with, what you're doing well with, and pointing out this is your ADHD. This sounds like it's the ADHD. But the second piece to that educational part is not only understanding how your ADHD affects you, but it's accepting that this is ADHD and that ADHD does not need to be fixed or broken. You're not a circle trying to get into a square. So it's important that we accept that, yes, the ADHD is there. And it is going to be loud at times, and I'm going to have to figure out how to work with it. But that's where the third piece comes in, and that's where you have the systems that we try to create, and the scaffolding that you need, and the strategies and the reminders, and all of those things become very important. But when you get into the acceptance piece, what happens is you can do the systems and the strategies without shame. So that's the key is shame, right? Because so many times we wrap around, oh, I don't want to have to do this. I shouldn't have to do this. Other people don't have to do this. Why do I have to have clocks all around me? Why do I have to do this? Right? But if we can accept that this is how my brain is wired. I know that my short-term memory is not good, or my working memory is not good. And this is what I need to do to help me. This is what I need to do to make the day, easier on me.
So we wanted to have this conversation, at least anchor it around some insights from others who have been on the show who are exceptional contributors to the ADHD body of knowledge.
Yes. So we're going to talk of 3 of our favorite people, James Ochoa, Sari Solden, and Michelle Frank, who have both written great books, and have a focus in each of their books around acceptance and some really good points of how to get to this point, which I think is half the battle, because we want to accept our ADHD. We want to accept anything that we're dealing with, anxiety. I can't see without my glasses, whatever's going on, right? We want to get to that level of acceptance, which was really why I wanted to do this show after we talked to Dr. Dodge, because those stages of acceptance they're so important. So let's talk about the James Ochoa Focus Forward. He has a set. It's almost like a worksheet that you could copy and put somewhere, which I think you should do because it's some really strong reminders. Accept that this is how your brain is set up. So this is kind of what we were talking about before. This is how ADHD affects me. This is the ADHD and how my brain is wired. Accept that your brain chemistry is the way it is. Don't label it as something that is wrong, bad, or broken. And again, that goes to our point. ADHD is not something that needs to be fixed. Accept the responsibility to understand and educate yourself. It won't be easy, but could be interesting. And I think this is important too, because if you talk about, or if you listen to some of Dr. Hollowell's information when he talks about ADHD, he talks about how it's an explanation, not an excuse. So I think this is where this falls into, is that I understand that these things are going to be difficult, and I do need to educate myself, and I do need to find ways that I can work for me. James Ochoa and myself are big advocates of finding out what works best for you. And that's, taking the time to really understand yourself and how your brain works.
All of this, it gets to that issue of identity. And I think this follows up nicely to the Dr. Dodge experience with, working on the stages of acceptance all the way through embrace, right? Let's not forget what that means. And I think James is nailing it here. The responsibility to understand and educate yourself is an act of embrace, is an act of saying, this is who I am. This is my identity. And I'm going to take responsibility to change my own language to demonstrate that I know my relationship with ADHD. I know that I live with it. I know that I don't live against it. I know that I don't have it. I am it. And the sooner we can do that, the sooner we can get back to living.
That's right. Well, and the next point that he says is accept that you'll always have to bring your brain back into balance. Well, this is, a little bit of what you were talking about. Well, if I'm not experiencing symptoms and then all of a sudden I experience them and there's the shock of, oh, there it is, it's back. I think there is this, if you're accepting the ADHD and knowing that I've got this right now, but it may shine its head at some point, that you can come back to a balance. I think it's a lot of just knowing that, okay, here it is. It's something that I probably just need to put to bed. I need to go to bed. And start again tomorrow, right? Or whatever. But it's knowing that you can always go back to that balance and figure out what it is that you need.
Well, and that's the gap that exists between the amount of surprise that you have that your systems have broken down and how quickly you can get back up and rebuild those systems. That's resilience, right? That gap is resilience. And that's what we're shooting for, is being more resilient means you have systems in place that allow you to have the shortest gap that you can muster between surprise when a system's broken down and being able to build it back up and make change quickly. That's resilience. And ADHD people, we can do that. We can adapt and pivot very, very quickly.
Right.
Can we do it with focus and attention? That's a skill that we're trying to develop, but we can change directions. That's something we are good at doing.
Really good at. That's right. So there's another point here about identity, and I do want to point this out. He says, accept that ADHD is not the main feature of your identity. It's just something about you, far from the only thing about you. And I think that's really important, is to understand that, if your planner right now isn't working, that doesn't mean that you're a bad person. it doesn't mean that you're, all of a sudden unkind or not who you are, right? I mean, this is a ADHD symptom that's coming out that you're having a hard time with, but it's not who you are. So it is important to, yes, it's part of your identity, but it's not everything. There's a lot of things that put a person, as a whole person,
Yeah, right, right. Like you may have brown eyes and a taste for asparagus. You also have ADHD.
That's right. Right.
Who has that?
That's weird that you said that.
That's weird that I would say that.
That's right. We'll go with it.
No.
Whatever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Odd. Okay.
Trash vegetable. What?
So moving forward, accept the possibility of treatment. From now on, you'll be the most important member of your treatment team. And I think this is really something that's really hard for ADHDers to do, and that's ask for help, especially because what I see in my work is that they don't think that they should have to need the help for something that seems so simple. And so then they feel so much shame around needing that kind of help. And I would really just challenge yourself in knowing that you're not alone, and executive functions, when there's a deficit there's a lot of things that are very difficult, and it doesn't have anything to do with intelligence. So just because you need some help in some area doesn't mean that you're stupid or that you are lazy, all of these kind of myths. And so, really being open to getting help and being open to listening to other ADHDers and trying some of these things, connecting and seeing what works for you.
Yeah, right. And he has this other point going on, right? That you accept that life has its ups and downs, that there may be, the way he says it, poetry in your quest for equilibrium. Mm-hmm. Those words are really beautiful. And if his own experience with ADHD is aspirational. I mean, what has come out of his ADHD? Not only is he a fantastic writer, author, contributor in the subject, he is a delightful therapist. He's somebody who does just the great work of his life as a result of his introspection and investigation into ADHD. He's also a wonderful inspirational artist.
Yes.
And he just, the joy that he brings into his life as a result of that exploration and acceptance of that identity is something to strive for. Mm-hmm. I don't for me, that experience is different, but gosh, I can only hope that there is one person out there who sees just some of the stuff that I do and says, oh, ADHD might have a cool angle for me too.
Right, right.
The way I feel about James, that is just, it's beautiful.
Yes.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
If I can do just an ounce of what he is able to do.
Absolutely.
And serve as a model, not a warning for others.
Right, right. Well, and his last point I love too, because it's so honest. Accept yourself. Notice I didn't say love yourself or try not to hate yourself or repeat positive affirmations to yourself about yourself. Never mind all that. Just right now, for this moment, accept yourself. Yeah. And once you have that acceptance, then it frees up so much space, right? It frees up the shame, and it replaces it with hope. And if you're curious instead of being judgmental, you have opened up so many possibilities, that you can explore in looking at what works for me. How does this work for me? So I just, it's acceptance is a huge piece to managing ADHD and navigating through it. And it's probably one of the hardest pieces. Right. It's probably, and it's an ongoing thing. It's not like you just all of a sudden decide, I accept this and everything's fine.
Right.
The next area that I want to talk about is from the book A Radical Guide for Women with ADHD by Sari Solden and Michelle Frank. This book is written for women, and the Declaration of Independence is for women. However, I'm going to say this is for all genders, no matter what you relate to. This is just all people with ADHD, because I think people forget their rights. Pete, we'll just go back and forth between these.
Sure.
The right to have connection, even though you have challenges.
The right to pursue your talents, even though you have challenges.
The right to speak, reveal your ideas, and be known, even though you have differences.
The right to claim and pursue your hopes and dreams, even though you have challenges.
The right to take time and make space for yourself, even though you have challenges.
The right to live shame-free, be treated with respect, even though you are imperfect.
The right to ask for help, even though you have strengths.
That's lovely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So many of these things, people don't feel like they have the right. They think that they need to stay small, or they think they shouldn't be heard. My hope for this show was just to remind people what their rights are, and see that they can, embrace the acceptance of ADHD, and that, we're not sitting here saying that it's a superpower or, any of that, because I know that can be a trigger for a lot of different people. But we are here to say that you can definitely live with it, be happy, do everything you want to do, and you can do it your own way. And it doesn't matter that somebody else doesn't do it the same way, and hopefully build a little bit of confidence in people too, that it's okay. Like, you don't have to think like me, and I don't have to think like you. Like, it's good that we think differently.
Yeah.
So there you have it.
Lovely. Thank you, Nikki. This is a great idea, and I hope it touches somebody who needs to hear it this very fine day. Thank you all for downloading and listening to the show. We appreciate your time and your attention. On behalf of Nikki Kinzer, I'm Pete Wright, and we'll catch you next week right here on Taking Control, the ADHD podcast.